And our next speaker is going to be Tyler Breen. He's from Pennsylvania. He's a millennial, and he's a treat. So take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us how you got the party, and then go with your program.
Okay. Are we going to play the videos first?
However you want to do it.
Yeah. That's probably what I would do. But I am a millennial. I'm your millennial for today. So unfortunate, right? So I'm going to be talking to you guys about the millennial push and why it's not just important to go after millennials, but it's really imperative if you want constitutionalism to survive and the party itself to thrive. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of some of the videos that I make pushing towards millennials and my audience. So give me 1 second, then I'll talk about everything else. But yeah, I could do some dances while I'm up here waiting.
What's your last name again, please?
Breen, Tyler Breen.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, and I host what I call the Pennsylvania, but I'm from Florida, the better state. And but yeah, I host that. I'm definitely more libertarian. I got involved with the Libertarian Party first. That's me. That's a handsome guy. But I think we're going to get into the videos, and then I'll talk a little bit. Yes?
Well, we're reading. The definition of a millennial is?
Okay, so there's a couple different definitions. So the Census Bureau will tell you that it's between the ages of 1981 when you were born and 2000. And then the Pew Research Center will say between like 1982 to 1997. So somewhere in your early to mid 20s to your late 30s. Yeah. So, whoa.
What's the generation after?
The generation after that, you are going to have the Generation Z generation, the most unfortunate generation, the generation that we really have to capture. And they're the generation who looks to millennials really for guidance, not only just things that we're doing right, but things that we're doing wrong. So, yeah, the generation hopeless. So, yeah, so I definitely, I talk to millennials, Generation Zers, even Generation X. A lot of my supporters, I keep walking in front of this thing, I think. A lot of my supporters tend to be really all over, but mainly I would say millennials and Gen Zers, because I'm really active on social media. But yeah, you can go ahead and play that. Should I sit? Should I stand?
You're pro-life, and you're about to get into a debate with a pro-choicer, and you want to make sure that you have the right responses to all of their objections that they are going to have for being pro-murder. I'm going to go over some of the most common objections that you're likely to face in these scenarios. The first objection is also the most common objection with the blanket statement, my body, my choice. It's so misleading. You should be able to do what you want with your own body as long as you are not harming another human being. You're pregnant, then there's another human being. You cannot harm that baby. But I want to. I mean, and if the baby is you, then are you then saying that you have 20 fingers and 20 toes, 2 hearts, 2 brains? Of course not. Now, this is likely going to lead into the next objection of it's not a real baby. It's not a person. It is a clump of cells. This is just scientifically inaccurate. A human embryo is not a clump of cells. A human embryo is an organism with its own separate genetic code, which is formed right after conception. All of the cells work together autonomously without any real help from the mother. The only thing that the mother has to provide the child is nutrients. And I don't know if you've noticed, we all need that. Shit. But Ty, in the beginning, it's not like a human. It doesn't have fingers and toes. It's small, like a marble. This is so funny. So are we saying that midgets should be killed? They're pretty tiny people. Or how about someone who just wasn't born with arms? Are they less human? Of course not. Because size and physical deformity does not make someone less or more human. But wait, Ty, hold on. They're completely dependent upon their mother. So is a 2-year-old. Completely dependent upon their mother. Should we kill them? I mean, you probably even know 40-year-olds that still live in their mother's basements. Pretty dependent.
I swear, you people only care about the baby until it's born.
Okay, so who exactly is you people? Are you talking about men? Because men adopt twice as many babies as women do. Are you talking Christians? Christians also adopt twice as many babies as non-Christians. Maybe you're talking about white people. You talking about those white people. Hate to tell you, white people adopt 75% of all babies in the U.S., and only 37% of those adopted are white. So honestly, it's looking like my group is more caring than your group. At this point, they're probably floundering. Now they're going to say something like, well, you know, they're going to grow up in hardship and poverty. By this logic, then we should be able to eliminate people in ghettos, or maybe just drop like a controlled missile on them. Some of the most prominent people of this generation come from hardship. They come from poverty. Leonardo DiCaprio, Jim Carrey, Sarah Jessica Parker, Jay-Z, Oprah. These people come from hardship. So because of the child's environmental circumstance, we should be able to kill that child?
Yeah, wait, maybe no.
It's really not difficult to overcome some of these absurd objections. But if you happen to run into a more intellectual liberal, they may put you in one of those philosophical hypotheticals. They'll say something similar to, if you had to choose between saving 100 fertilized eggs or saving a 5-year-old child, which would you save? Now, they're banking on you saying the 5-year-old. And once you do, they're going to say, aha, gotcha. Why? Because it's a real human? Because 100 fertilized eggs, they're not real humans. Hold on, liberal. No, of course, I'm going to save the 5-year-old child the same way that I would save the 5-year-old child if you gave me the option between him and a 90-year-old woman on her deathbed. It's not immoral to save a human based on their stage of life if you are forced with that decision. And I'm not going to choose the 100 fertilized eggs. They haven't even been born yet. I mean, they could still miscarry. They may not be viable to be born.
It all makes sense.
So hopefully this video helps you to overcome those objections from pro-choicers, and you can go in peace and win your debate. Guys, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, share this video, make sure that you are subscribing and following me on all social platforms, and be sure to catch me on my next video.
So that's that was one of my videos on abortion. I think that it's really, I was like, it's ridiculous even to hear some of the excuses that people will come up for with abortion. There's not a single instance, not one. There's not one viable instance as to why abortion should happen. Right? People like to bring up even medical emergency. Well, what if it's a medical emergency? If we have to terminate the baby to save the mother's life, right? That's not the way that it works. Right? The way that it works is that the doctor is going to try and deliver that baby. You don't abort the baby and then deliver it, right? You deliver that baby, and hopefully that baby survives. But there's not one single instance, guys, as to why abortion is viable. And my generation, millennial generation, they're okay with it. I mean, the Democrats, the liberals, they want 9-month-old abortions. You know that now, right? 9-month-old abortions. Not only inside the womb, but now outside the womb. Right? They have been blocking bills to where people come in and put that clause of, okay, well, if for some reason the baby survives whatever abortion, whatever method that they use, and it's delivered and it's still alive, that they're going to kill it now. Right? I mean, it's evil. It's really just evil. So, yeah, really insane. So that's really big. And then guns. Assault weapons. I'll hit the play button. No need. I got it. Got this.
So a gun control advocate has just called you out, and you being a Second Amendment enthusiast want to make sure that you represent and you put them in their place. Luckily, you found this video because I am going to show you the top 5 most common objections that you are likely to run into with the gun control crowd.
Let's do this!
Yeah! Citizens don't need an assault rifle. So forgetting for a second that the left can't even really define what an assault rifle is, or they redefine it every couple of years. But the point of using this wording is to scare other people and think, oh my God, an assault weapon? Problem is that more people are killed with blunt objects every year than assault rifles. That's right. More people are killed with baseball bats and common hammers than you would find at any Home Depot. But even so, how does this even help your cause? The left is notorious for talking about police brutality and injustice, unarmed men being shot down. However, you want these same people to be the only ones with access to these weapons?
That didn't even make any sense.
And to be honest, what you think I need is not your concern. And if you're going to apply it to the second, then you got to be fair and apply it to the others. Let's take the Fourth Amendment. I think that now if you have a hoodie and you are black, because statistically you are more prone to violence, that you should be unlawfully searched.
Well, that's not fair.
Then don't apply it to the Second Amendment. Well, okay, but the Second Amendment was written back when they only had muskets. The Founding Fathers could have never conceived of having guns of this caliber now. So that's factually inaccurate. See, they're talking about the muskets that you could only shoot 2 or 3 rounds per minute, and they either fail to acknowledge or just don't know that they did in fact have more powerful guns even back then. In circa 1650, Kalthoff had a number of models more powerful than the muskets that they're talking about. In fact, some of them could even hold 30 rounds, which is actually the same amount of rounds that the scary AR-15 holds today. You have the belt repeater in 1777, which held 16 to 20 shots. This gun was also reportedly commissioned by Congress to put 100 of them into production for the U.S. military, and production was only stopped because of the cost.
We are now worse than broke.
Just more evidence that the Founding Fathers could conceive of having higher capacity rounds. In 1782, you had the knock volley gun, which could shoot 7 rounds at one time. So it's evident that the Founding Fathers have seen the technological advances and have seen the progression of guns to where they still put in there, shall not be infringed. Not to mention that we had full artillery just like the military had. They had warships, we had warships. They had cannons, we had cannons. But if you're still adamant, then let's go ahead and apply the same logic to the First Amendment. Because you're talking about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. I don't know. I don't think that the Founding Fathers could have ever fathomed that we would have 24-hour access to news stations, cell phones, the internet, and news networks that were manipulating and lying to the public, spreading their propaganda and intellectual dishonesty. So freedom of press should really be limited to just printed newspapers and you standing up in a Times Square without any video cameras or social media of any kind.
Okay, I get it.
Oh, you're missing the point. All we want is stronger background checks and psyche valves. So who's going to be in charge of these psyche valves? The government? The same people that the left won't let go for reparations? The people that enslaved black people? You want these people to also be in charge of psyche valves?
I didn't think this through completely.
Let the business owners make that decision of who they want to sell to. But over 30,000 Americans die every year due to gun violence. So that's misleading. 60% of them are due to suicide, 3% are due to accidental death, which leaves about 11,000-ish people that are killed by guns. But if we broke that down, 80% of gun murders in America are due to gang violence.
Wait, hold the phone there.
So it's obvious we don't have a gun problem, we have a gang problem. Taking away guns from the general population only makes us easier victims. What about the mass murders? There's so many mass murders. When comparing mass murders with gang violence or child obesity or texting while driving, mass murders are just a drop in the ocean. I know it doesn't seem this way because mainstream media constantly pumps this into your brain, but mass murders are relatively rare. Out of all the data that we've had going back years, there's only been a little over 1,000 deaths due to mass murders. Now, I am not making light of the situation. I am not taking away from the families that have lost their children due to mass murders, but relatively speaking, it is very small compared to the other ways that people are being murdered.
That's fine.
And if you really want to stop mass shootings, then take away the gun-free zones. Over 90% of mass murders happen in gun-free zones. Even the left-leaning Washington Post admitted that 86% of mass murders happen in gun-free zones. That's significant. Almost like they're targeting gun-free zones specifically because they know that they will face very minimal opposition.
Oh, he's good.
Those are the top 5 objections that you are likely to face when debating a gun control advocate. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, share it so other people can see how to win this debate as well, and make sure you catch me on my next video.
So that's me, really, in a nutshell. Hey, thank you. Thank you. So those are the type of videos that I like to make and that I, push out there to millennials. Things that are more, for lack of a better term, like triggering, emotional, things that are hot in the news at that moment. And, like I said, I started as a libertarian because I believed what they believed. It was, more liberty, freedoms, my own personal choices shouldn't really be imposed on other people. But I found that the Libertarian Party it's so disorganized and it's chaotic. I was talking about it earlier with a couple members here that, half the libertarians, they want anarchism, right? They want the complete absence of government, which is not only impractical, it's really just not going to happen. People are always going to have people that want to govern themselves, right? And like I said, they just failed to acknowledge places like, Somalia and places like Honduras where they really have very minimal government, not working out so well over there, right? So what we want is the government that was stated in the Constitution. So I reach out to the Constitution Party, and I definitely want to say thank you to Cindy because she was my main point of contact. And she sifted through my videos and thought that I had something and really reached out to Frank and set this whole thing up, so I definitely appreciate it. I reached out to the Constitution Party to see what was going on, and I kind of put my feelers out there to my followers because I didn't really know too much about the Constitution Party. And the response from millennials wasn't really positive. Right? Most of the millennials that even knew what the Constitution Party was, because most don't, those that did know thought that you guys were a smaller, more radical version of the Republican Party, and how that it's not really different from the Republican Party, which obviously I believe to be false. And matter of fact, I was looking on your on the YouTube that you guys had, and while I was looking on there was, I read this earlier, but this was a comment that was left on one of the videos. And they said, the Constitution Party is just too old right now. You're not bringing in young people or people who freely think. Free think is your friend, not your foe. And that seems to be the consensus of a lot of millennials. They just don't see it. Right? That you guys are really just a group of, old white people. That's what they think, right? So, so we need to be more diverse. We need to attract millennials, right? Millennials, my generation, is the most diverse group of all of American history, right? 44% of millennials are minorities, right? So it's incredibly important, right? 50% of the entire population is now millennial. 50%, half. So you can see by these numbers why you have to target millennials, right? We're now coming into more positions of power, because like I said, we're in our mid to early 20s to now our late 30s. We're really dictating what happens in this country. $600 billion is put into the economy every year due to millennials. So it's incredibly important, but how do you do that, right? How do you really reach a millennial? Well, if you see most millennials, you're probably going to see them doing something like this. Constantly looking at their phone, right? That's what we do, right? Social media is the number one way that you are going to reach a millennial. It's imperative. It's irrefutable, right? So Facebook is number one. The average millennial spends more than 2.5 hours every single day on social media. And to some people here, that may even sound kind of crazy. Right? We spend at least 2.5 hours on social media. So Facebook is number one, right? Instagram directly behind it, and the newest generation Z crowd, who are now in their late teens, we need to capture them. They prefer YouTube, right? So it's incredibly imperative. So you know where to go after them, But how exactly do you do it? Do you just make a Facebook status? Maybe. Not the best. Photos are better. Videos are best. Right? My group, millennials, are incredibly visual. They actually had this study, and they said something, it was found to be grossly inaccurate, but it painted an interesting picture. What they said is that millennials had between an 8 to 12 second attention span, right? Just putting down my whole group. And like I said, it was found to be inaccurate. What they found is that our attention spans aren't lower. In fact, some studies will tell you that our attention spans are higher, but our attention spans are incredibly selective, very selective, right? So we have to be entertained, right? When you deliver information to us, we have to be entertained. You really have to engage us, right? And the other parties, guys, they have figured this out, right? You have people like, if anyone knows who Steven Crowder is, right? Steven Crowder is big in conservative circles, Republican Party, millennial. Anyone I mentioned today will be a millennial. And he has millions of followers online, millions, right? And he puts mass amounts of humor into his videos. Julie Borowski, who's really big in libertarian circles, really big. All her videos are incredibly humorous, whether you agree with her humor or not, but they are obviously funny, but still centered around liberty, right? You can still deliver factual information backed up by data in a more humorous way. Like these dry politics, dry anything, right? Meetings, conferences, no matter what it is, it's not going to engage millennials. Right? You need to have people that are more diverse. You need to have millennial advocates. You need to have people that are... She's saying something.
5.
Oh, 5. Oh, I'm looking at her. Okay, 5 minutes. But you need to have these people. So, but the good thing is that these other parties, they're not really united by the Constitution, guys. They're really not. Right? We already know that the Democrats are. We should all agree on that, right? So Democrats, they're very vocal. Like, you got Beto O'Rourke that wants to bust down your door and take all your AR-15s, right? She's shaking her head, right? So it's just not going to happen, right? But they want to do that. They want to limit your freedom of speech. They want to 9-month-old abortions. They want us to use the pronouns that they want us to use. They want that to be legislated, right? So we already know that they want to eliminate our rights. But the Republican Party, guys, they're really not much better, especially when it comes to gun rights. It really isn't, and it's sad to say. In fact, when it comes to gun rights, more federal gun control has been imposed under Republican sitting presidents, actually twice the amount, than Democrats, right? It's insane. Right, because when they're leading the charge, it's somehow okay. Now they didn't do the assault weapon ban. That was Democrats, right? But they started the first one, Calvin Coolidge. They had Reagan who imposed the cop killer bullet ban, right? Making it so that we can't have a weapon that would pierce a police officer's uniform. And guys, if the government were to truly become tyrannical tomorrow, who do you think they're going to send? It's not going to be the military. It's going to be your local and state law enforcement. And they made it illegal for us to be even able to combat them if we had to, right? So they're willing to do these things. Trump and his bump stock bans, and Republicans rally around and saying, it's chess moves, guys, or it's not as bad as the Democrats. I don't care how good or bad or how small or how large the infringement is. It is an infringement. It is what it is. Right? I'm unwilling to compromise on those things. I'm unwilling to compromise when it comes to our original Bill of Rights. I'm unwilling to compromise when it comes to things like abortion, killing children in the womb. That's just evil, right? So I'm unwilling to do that. And I think a lot of Republicans miss that. They're willing to compromise on these things, and I think it's wrong, right? So this is what I continue to do, what I push out there to millennials, and what I'm going to continue to do the second I walk out that door today. And I hope to have your support when I do. Thank you. Yes.
Quick question. From your personal view of being against abortion, infanticide, and such, do you see the millennials as a whole being the opposite?
I definitely do. I mean, half of millennials millennials and Gen Zers together believe in a socialist nation and believing we should adopt socialism. So they are extremely liberal. They believe in killing children in and outside of the womb. And in my own personal circles that I hear. I've lost a lot of friends, guys. Like, I didn't have many to start with, but I lost a lot of them, definitely. Out of the 3 friends, I lost 2 of them, right? Because I was more conservative on these views, and I thought that I was just more rational. But they're even unwilling to sit down with some people. But if they're going to sit down with anyone, guys, they have to have more diversity. I'm really here trying to come on board, and I want to be an advocate for your party. I think that you guys have a voice that is missing. And I believe that I can fill that and help you reach a larger group of people. So, yeah, thank you for that question.